Welcome, chosen one. Settle in and take a deep breath because the quiet part of your life is officially a thing of the past. For a long time, you felt like you were living in a glass box, watching the world judge you for things you didn't do and personality traits you didn't actually possess. You were the person everyone looked at with that fake pity or that biting suspicion, as if you were the sole architect of your own misfortune and chaos. But the atmosphere around you has shifted recently, and the truth is no longer a tiny whisper in the back of your mind. It has become a roar that the entire town is finally being forced to acknowledge. You were told repeatedly that the danger was out there, somewhere in the world, but your gut always knew the real threat was much closer. Now, it is finally time to admit that the person holding the matches was the very one you let into your inner circle, and the fire they started is finally burning their own house down. They spent a massive amount of time making sure you felt like the crazy one, didn't they? They pointed fingers at everyone else, the neighbors, the coworkers, the strangers on the street, while they were the ones actively poisoning the well you were drinking from. It was a brilliant, albeit twisted, performance, really. You had to sit there and watch them sip tea across from you, while they were mentally rehearsing the very lies they would tell about you to the neighbors later that same evening. They told everyone that the chosen one is just too dramatic and that you were simply imagining things because you are sensitive. It's funny how the same people who mocked your intuition are now the ones looking for a place to hide because the universe just kicked open the door to their secret basement. You weren't imagining coldness, you were sensing a predator. Now that the file has been opened, the scramble for cover has begun. Before we go any deeper into this revelation, I need you to do something small for yourself. Hit that like button and subscribe, because the truth we are uncovering today is designed to empower you while it strips your enemies of their masks once and for all. You've carried this burden alone for far too long, and it's time to join a community of people who understand exactly what it feels like to be the target of a hidden, silent war. When you engage with this message, you are signaling to the universe that you are ready to stop being the victim and start being the victor of your own story. The enemies you face feel the shift in their bones. They know that the spotlight is moving from your supposed mistakes to their actual dark motives. This is the moment where the script flips in your favor, and you need to be present for it. The whole town is buzzing now, and for once, the conversation isn't about what you supposedly did wrong. It's about the shocking realization that you weren't paranoid. You were actually surrounded. People are looking back at the last several years with a sense of genuine nausea because they realized they were watching a tragic play where the villain was the person they least suspected. It wasn't a stranger who tried to sink your ship. It was your own sibling. This is the sibling that the family constantly told you to be patient with, the one who was always defended while you were told to stay humble and keep the peace at all costs. But that peace was a lie, and the pedestal they were placed on is currently crumbling into fine dust. The air around you feels different because the storm has passed, and everyone can see that the wreckage wasn't your fault. Think about all those times you walked into a room, and the energy shifted instantly for no reason. You couldn't put your finger on it, but it felt like there was a heavy, invisible weight pressing down on your chest. You didn't know that behind the scenes, strings were being pulled by a master puppeteer to ensure you were never comfortable. Your sibling wasn't just living their own life. They were actively managing yours, making sure that your reputation was tarnished before you even had a chance to speak a single word. They took every vulnerability you ever shared in confidence and turned it into a weapon to be used against you in the court of public opinion. They wanted you to be the failure story of the family because it made their own mediocre success look like a grand triumph by comparison. But the universe hates a rigged game. Let's talk about the specific details of that sabotage, chosen one. Remember that career opportunity that seemed like a sure thing until it suddenly vanished into thin air. You nailed the interview, the chemistry was perfect, and then, absolute silence. Your sibling made a phone call. Remember that relationship that was heading towards something beautiful until your partner suddenly became distant and cold without explanation. Your sibling sent a well-timed, poisonous message. Even the friends who drifted away for no reason actually had a reason. They were fed a steady diet of lies that made you look like someone they could no longer trust. Your sibling didn't want you to outgrow them. and they certainly didn't want you to prove what they always feared deep down, that you were the one built for greatness, and they were just an imitation, while you were breaking under the intense pressure of all these coincidences. Something much larger was happening in the spiritual realm. It was as if divine agents were building a massive case around you because your life simply didn't make sense on paper. There were too many hits, too many patterns, and too many unexplained losses for a person of your talent, heart, and integrity. The universe began analyzing every detail, watching how you handled the sabotage while remaining standing against all odds. The town is now in a state of absolute shock because the truth hit them like a bucket of ice water in the middle of winter. The person they praised and protected was the same person who was actively trying to destroy you from the inside out. This is your revelation, chosen one. Your story is shifting from a tragedy to a triumph. This part of the journey is absolutely crucial, so I need you to listen very closely. What's coming next isn't just information. It's the total, final breakdown of the illusion they spent a lifetime building around your name. If you are still reading this, it means the universe has led you here to finally see the truth without the filters they put over your eyes. I want you to do something small, but powerful to mark this moment in time. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with 777. If you are ready to face the facts that the rest of the world is too scared to say out loud, let this be your signal that you are done being the quiet one, while your sibling plays puppet master with your life. We are going to walk through this step by step. Number 1, the betrayal that smiled in your face the whole time. It is a haunting thought, isn't it? The realization that the biggest snake in your life didn't hiss. It gave you hugs and told you it loved you. This has been the longest running performance in your town's history, and your sibling was the undisputed star. They didn't need to be loud or violent to hurt you. They just needed access, and as family, they had that from the very first day. You felt the poison long before you could actually prove it. Those weird feelings and the intuition you were told to ignore were actually your soul's internal alarm system screaming at you. You were living in a trap designed by someone who studied your heart like a scientist. They didn't just want to hurt you. They wanted to own your reality. They didn't treat you like a brother or sister. They treated you like hive. You prey. They learned your sensitivities so they could flip them into instability in the eyes of others. They learned your deepest fears so they could trigger them at the exact moment you needed to be strong and focused. For years, you blamed yourself for the failed relationships and the missed doors that seemed to slam in your face. You thought you were unlucky or perhaps even fundamentally flawed. But now you see that none of it was random. Your sibling engineered your downfall with the patience of a rival who has been competing with you since you were both in the nursery. The town is gagging now because the golden child has been exposed. That calm, helpful persona was never about kindness. It was pure, tactical camouflage. You have to ask yourself why they always came out looking clean, while you always came out looking bruised and battered. Why were their mistakes always forgiven as learning experiences, while your smallest stumble became front page news in the local gossip circles? The answer is as brutal as it is simple. They climbed by standing on your shoulders and pressing your head down. Your silence protected their reputation, and your confusion made their lies seem more believable to the people around you. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a moment of emotional weakness on their part. This was a slow, intentional sabotage of your entire existence. They lived off the resources meant for your future and drained the support that was supposed to help you stand on your own. They stole your path. You weren't just betrayed, you were meticulously framed. They needed you to look unreliable so they could look like the responsible, sane one in comparison. Every time someone said you couldn't get your life together, your sibling smirked behind their hand because that was the goal all along. But here is the twist that the universe loves to provide. Chosen ones always wake up right when the enemy thinks the game is over. This is the moment your sibling feared most. It's the day you stop apologizing for things you never did and stop shrinking for people who don't deserve your light. The tower of lies they built is currently collapsing into the dirt. Notice how certain people can't look you in the eye anymore. That's not confusion. That's the weight of the guilt they feel. Chosen ones don't stay down forever, and your rise is going to be far more powerful than your fall ever was. You are rising now with a level of clarity that most people will never achieve in their entire lives. Your downfall was a staged production, But your comeback is the real deal. Your sibling didn't expect that the pressure they put on you would actually turn you into something they can no longer control or manipulate. You have evolved into a version of yourself that can't be lied about without the lie being exposed instantly. You survived a war you weren't even told you were fighting, and that has made you dangerous to anyone who relies on deception to get ahead. Your mind is sharper, your intuition is louder, and your tolerance for fake love is zero. Number 2, nothing that collapsed in your life was actually on you. It's funny how they labeled you the problem while they were busy cutting the power lines behind the scenes. Let's set the record straight. Every failed job and every broken connection wasn't a sign of your weakness. It was a reflection of the sabotage happening in the deep shadows. They told you to take more accountability and work harder, didn't they? They whispered that maybe you just weren't meant for success or happiness. Meanwhile, they were the ones moving your starting line back every single night while you slept. Your life wasn't a series of random failures. It was a race you were destined to win, which is exactly why they were so terrified of you crossing the finish line before them. When you look back, doesn't it feel strange how perfectly timed those collapses were? Things would finally start going well, and then, out of nowhere, the floor would fall out from under you. People would turn cold right after you shared your excitement with your sibling. That's not a coincidence, that's choreography. Your setbacks were crafted like puzzles, and your heartbreaks were engineered with malice. You spent years wondering why people treated you differently for no reason, but the reason was being fed to them in soft, concerned sounding whispers. They used a worried voice to plant seeds of doubt about your stability. You weren't losing chances. Someone was actively intercepting them and turning support into suspicion. You were building a house while someone else was sneaking in at night to remove the foundation. If you had been left alone, you would have risen much faster and much higher than you ever imagined. You were never the problem in this story. You were the threat. They targeted you because they couldn't match your resilience or your mind. They knew that if you ever gained momentum, they would never be able to catch up. The universe allowed this to happen not to make you suffer, but to give you a revelation that would change your life forever. Revelation and awakening were the goal, not destruction. Your siblings' limits have now been exposed in front of the entire community, and the chaos they planted around you is finally being traced back to its source. Your life wasn't falling apart, it was being tampered with, but clarity is the one weapon no enemy can survive. Number 3, the money trail that exposed the real monster. This is where the story shifts from emotional betrayal to actual criminal activity. Some thieves break into houses, but your sibling broke into your life and took everything they could while sitting in a comfortable chair. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was cold, calculated financial warfare. Imagine someone forging your signature with the confidence of someone who never expected to be audited by the universe. They were redirecting resources meant for your future into their own pockets, all while acting like they were the financially responsible ones. You weren't struggling because you were bad with money. You were struggling because you were being robbed by someone you trusted with your very life. This is the ultimate violation of trust. They thought they could erase the paper trail, but the universe keeps better receipts than any bank in the world. Every fraudulent document and illegal transfer is now sitting in records they can no longer hide or delete. They used your trust as a blindfold so they could swap your keys for fakes. These weren't just small borrowings between family members. These were financial crimes designed to keep you powerless, dependent, and broken. Now that the truth is out, the dominoes are falling back onto the person who set them up. The town is disgusted by the level of violation, and your sibling is realizing that an empire built on theft cannot stand the light of day. Your name is being put back on everything that belongs to you. Number 4, the lonely cage they built around you. Your isolation wasn't a twist of fate. It was a manufactured prison. Your sibling didn't just distance you from people. They engineered your loneliness with surgical precision. They whispered into people's ears long before you ever walked into a room, ensuring that any potential bond was poisoned before it could even start. People pulled away from you not because of who you are, but because of the filtered, distorted version of you your sibling presented to them. They turned your genuine kindness into neediness, and your silence into instability. It was a perfect disguise because they played the role of the steady, concerned sibling who was just doing their best with a difficult family member. It was a trap of perception. Why go to such lengths to keep you alone, because isolation makes you easier to control and manipulate. If you were alone, you would never compare stories with others, you would never hear the truth from a third party, and you would keep doubting your own memories and sanity. Their goal was to keep you in that cage long enough that you would eventually give up and accept their version of reality as the absolute truth. But the universe broke that cage wide open. Now the people who backed away are starting to realize they were manipulated by a scriptwriter. The only unstable person in this entire saga was the one building the walls around you. Your siblings' attempt to bury you in loneliness has backfired. Number 5, the love story they poisoned before it could breathe. Let's stop pretending that the relationship you lost was just bad timing. That bond didn't fade, it was assassinated in cold blood. The sudden coldness and confusion you felt from someone you cared about didn't come from a mismatch of personalities. It came from a sibling who couldn't stand to see you loved, supported, or truly seen. They didn't want anyone getting close enough to see the real you, because the real you would automatically expose the lie they were telling. They hinted and warned your partner about things you never did, painting you as volatile and inconsistent. They turned your genuine heart into a red flag in the eyes of the person you loved most. Your romantic interest didn't reject you. They rejected the fake version of you that your sibling created. Sabotage works best when it's delivered with a soft touch and a look of concern, and your sibling was a master at twisting the truth just enough to trigger doubt. But that distortion is finally collapsing. The fog is clearing, and the people who were driven away are starting to question everything they were told. The universe is flipping the script so that those lost connections are now looking back with deep regret, wondering how they ever believed the lie. Your sibling's attempt to keep you unloved has only proven how much you are truly worth fighting for. The people who belong in your life are coming back. Number 6. The receipts that are about to bury them alive. Villains only win when the lights are off and the universe just flipped the switch. Financial crimes leave scars that don't heal, and your sibling was arrogant enough to think they could outrun the numbers forever. Every lie they told created a crack, and every crack has become a massive collapse. They built their lifestyle on forged documents and manipulated stories, thinking the shadows would protect them forever. But shadows only delay the truth, they don't erase it. Deception always gets sloppy because the deceiver eventually gets comfortable. Their confidence has become their own trap, and the digital footprint of their betrayal is now visible for everyone to see. There is no hiding from the data. Imagine a spiderweb that was woven in the dark. It looks invisible until the sun comes out and lights up every single thread. Your sibling kept weaving, thinking nobody saw the pattern. But now the web is glowing, and every thread points directly to their guilt. The inconsistencies in their stories have become too large to ignore, and the evidence they feared is standing up and speaking. You might have wondered if the universe missed something, but the truth is that every illegal transfer and every forged signature carries the pressure of their hand. Their downfall isn't a future event, it is happening in real time. The very things they used to sink you are now the weights tied to their own feet. Number 7, the scheme that snapped back and choked its creator. Overconfidence is a quiet form of suicide, and your sibling walked right into it with a smile on their face. Their plan didn't fail because you fought them. It failed because they truly believed you were too weak or too stupid to notice what was happening. That smug sense of superiority was the very trap they marched into. They thought you were too emotional to see the patterns and too trusting to question their motives. Because they underestimated you, they got sloppy. They stopped checking their surroundings and didn't notice the ground shifting beneath them. They were so busy stalking you that they didn't realize the universe was recording every single step they took. Reckless people don't just fall into traps, they create them and then forget where they put them. They kept escalating their attacks, thinking they were winning, but each escalation only added more weight to the case against them. Your silence wasn't a sign of weakness, it was a form of pressure. It made them talk more and plot more until they eventually contradicted themselves. They thought you were surrendering, but you were actually letting them dig their own grave. Sometimes the smartest move you can make is to do nothing and let the villain expose their own character. They created the trap, they walked into it, and now they are choking on the very plan they thought would break you. Justice is poetic. Number 8. The strength they never saw coming. Pressure doesn't create flaws. It exposes the lies of everyone else. The whole town is frozen right now because they are seeing how you survived while the world swore you were the one unraveling. The universe watched your restraint and your refusal to break even when everything was engineered to crush you. They expected you to explode so they could point and say, "We told you so." But your calm integrity was something they never prepared for. You held yourself together with a grace they can't understand. Integrity under pressure is the most dangerous weapon a chosen one possesses, and you have used it to dismantle their entire operation without lifting a finger. You sensed the shifts and the lies long before you had proof, and that intuition terrified them. Gaslighting only works if the victim doubts themselves, but you learned to trust your instincts over their manipulation. You became harder and sharper while they expected you to crumble. Most people would have collapsed under half the weight you carried, but you crystallized. You turned into a version of yourself that their lies can no longer touch. Your stability has exposed their instability, and your evolution has triggered their destruction. You are now the living proof that the chosen one cannot be defeated by a manufactured storm. You are the storm now, and the truth is your lightning. Your resilience has redefined you. As we wrap this up, chosen one, take a deep breath and feel the shift in the air. The long night of sabotage and hidden warfare is finally over. You have walked through a maze designed to break your spirit, and you came out the other side with a map of the enemy's territory. Your sibling's story is ending in shame, but yours is just beginning in power. The universe has cleared the path they tried to block, and you are finally free to become the person you were always meant to be. No more hiding, no more doubting, and no more apologizing for your existence. You are the victor of a war you didn't ask for, and that makes your victory sweet. You have survived a betrayal that would have shattered most people into 8,000,000 pieces, and now it is finally time to rebuild your life on a foundation that can never be shaken. Your sibling's narrative is ending in the shadows where it belongs, while yours is beginning in the bright light of a new day. The universe has cleared the path they tried so desperately to block, and you are finally free to walk toward your destiny without looking over your shoulder. No more hiding your talents, no more doubting your eyes, and no more apologizing for existing. You are the victor of a hidden war. To keep this momentum going, would you like me to draft a specific plan for how you can legally and socially reclaim your reputation?